The vast chamber of the Concordia space station fell silent as Captain Susan Miller stepped through the ornate doorway. The human woman walked with purpose, her back straight and her blue uniform crisp, despite the long journey from Earth. Her, eyes sharp and observant, took in the curved walls that rose hundreds of feet above, studded with hovering platforms where representatives of 17 different alien species watched her approach. This was humanity's first official meeting with the Galactic Council, and Susan felt the weight of 7 billion lives on her shoulders. The exploration vessel Horizon had been chosen for first contact after detecting the Council's communication signals near Jupiter's orbit. Now, 6 months later, Susan found herself walking alone toward the central platform where the Council's leadership waited. Captain Susan Miller of Earth, announced a melodic voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. The Galactic Council acknowledges your presence. The central platform held 5 beings, each more alien than the last. In the middle stood a tall, slender figure with pale blue skin that seemed to shimmer with inner light. 7 fingers on each hand, and eyes that swirled with colors Susan had no names for. "I am High Chancellor Zixthul of the Veldorian people," the central figure said, its voice now coming directly from its body. "We welcome Earth to the greater galactic community." Susan bowed slightly, just as she had been instructed by Earth's hastily assembled diplomatic team. "On behalf of humanity, I thank you for this welcome." The being to the right of Zixthul leaned forward. It resembled a giant insect, with compound eyes and mandibles that clicked softly as it spoke. "We are surprised your species has advanced so quickly. Your first fusion engines were developed only 200 years ago, yet you have already achieved limited faster-than-light travel." "Humans tend to be quick learners," Susan said with a small smile. She had been warned not to appear too proud or too humble. The right balance was crucial. Zixthul gestured with a flowing movement. "As is tradition, we have prepared the integration treaty for Earth. All new species must undergo a period of guidance before full membership in the Council. This is for the protection of all." A glowing document appeared in the air before Susan. It slowly rotated, displaying thousands of pages of text in a language that shifted before her eyes into English. "The standard acceptance period is one of your Earth centuries," explained Zixthul. "During this time, Earth will be granted limited trade rights, access to certain technologies, and protection from any outside threats. In return, we ask only for your cooperation and certain resource considerations." Susan had been briefed on this possibility. The standard approach would be to sign immediately, showing gratitude for being accepted into the galactic community. But her orders were clear. "The people of Earth are honored by this offer," she said carefully. "However, a document of this importance deserves proper review. I request time for our legal and diplomatic experts to examine the treaty in full." The chamber, already quiet, became absolutely still. The insectoid being's mandibles clicked rapidly, and Susan saw ripples of color pass through Zixthul's skin. "This is unusual," the High Chancellor said after a long pause. "The integration treaty is standard for all species. It has been refined over 10,000 years. Susan met the alien's swirling eyes without flinching. "Then surely a few months of review will make no difference to such a long-standing document." On Earth, in a secure underground facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, analyst William Carter watched the exchange through Susan's hidden camera feed. He scratched his beard nervously as he saw the council members exchange glances. "They don't like this one bit," he muttered to the room full of intelligence officers and scientists. Dr. Olivia Nash, the head xenolinguist, leaned forward. "Look at their micro-expressions. They're not just surprised, they're alarmed." William nodded slowly. "Which means there's something in that treaty they don't want us looking at too closely." Back on the Concordia station, Zixthul had recovered its composure. "Very well. We will grant Earth 30 days to review the document. This is most generous." "We request 90 days, Susan countered smoothly. Given the translation challenges and the importance of the agreement, another ripple of color passed through the High Chancellor's skin, this one darker. 60 days, no more. The Council has many matters requiring attention." "Agreed," Susan said, inclining her head. Earth thanks you for your understanding. As Susan was escorted from the chamber, she could hear the rising murmur of voices behind her. The small device hidden in her collar captured every word, transmitting them back to Earth for analysis. Over the next week, Earth's best minds worked around the clock analyzing the treaty. William Carter led a team of 50 analysts who broke the document down section by section. It's buried in legal language, William explained to the Joint Chiefs of Staff 7 days later. But essentially, we'd be signing away most of our sovereignty. They get first rights to all our resources, control over our technological development, and the ability to veto any space expansion beyond our current colonies. General Patricia Wright frowned deeply. So it's not an integration treaty. It's a submission treaty. Exactly, William confirmed. And there's more. We've been monitoring all communications going in and out of the Council ship in our orbit. Our AI systems have decoded enough to be concerning. He brought up several translated messages on the screen. They are already discussing how to divide Earth's mineral rights among the senior Council members. There are estimates of how quickly they can extract our rare Earth elements. Dr. Amanda Reyes, who had been quietly working at a terminal in the corner, spoke up. The most disturbing part is what I found in their biological databases. They've classified humans as highly adaptable but easily managed through proper incentive structures. There are detailed plans for what they call cultural adjustments to make us more compliant over generations. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. So this whole process is a sham, General Wright said finally. They never intended to treat us as equals. It gets worse, Amanda continued. I've been comparing their technology levels as demonstrated versus what they claim in their communications. There are significant discrepancies. I believe they're deliberately presenting themselves as more advanced than they actually are, to intimidate new species into compliance. William looked at the assembled leaders. Our recommendation is to continue the diplomatic process while gathering more intelligence. Captain Miller has established a good rapport with some of the junior council species who might be willing to share information. President Laura Bennett nodded gravely. Agreed. We'll play along for now. But start working on contingency plans. If the Galactic Council thinks humanity will simply roll over and accept subservient status, they're about to learn an important lesson about our species. As the meeting adjourned, William stayed behind, staring at the images of the alien representatives. A plan was already forming in his mind, one that would require perfect timing and the sort of audacity that had defined humanity's greatest moments throughout history. The Galactic Council had no idea what they were about to face. 3 months passed since the first meeting. Ambassador John Phillips now led the human delegation. An older man with gray hair and calm eyes, John had spent 40 years in diplomatic service before this assignment. He sat at the large, curved table in the negotiation chamber on Concordia Station, facing representatives from 5 different council species. Your continued delays are trying our patience, said Krell, the HFY representative. His insect-like body tensed as he spoke, mandibles clicking in irritation. The treaty terms are standard. All new species accept them. John smiled politely. We appreciate the Council's standard approach. However, Section 27 regarding resource allocation seems unusual. It states Earth must provide 90% of all rare minerals upon request. This is normal, said Zixthul smoothly. New species contribute to the greater good of the galactic community. And what does Earth receive in return? John asked, his voice friendly but firm. Protection. Knowledge. A place in civilization, Zixthul answered. Colors rippled through his blue skin. Do not forget, humans, that there are many dangers in the galaxy. Species who do not join the Council often face unfortunate accidents. John noted the threat but kept his expression neutral. I see. We will take your concerns back to Earth's leadership. Later, in the secure human quarters aboard Concordia, John met with his team. Captain Susan Miller was there, along with 3 other specialists. They're getting aggressive, John said, removing the small jamming device from his pocket and activating it to prevent eavesdropping. The threats are becoming less veiled. Susan nodded. Our ships have detected increased Council vessel movements, near our outer colonies. They're trying to intimidate us. A message alert chimed. It was from Earth, marked urgent. Dr. Amanda Reyes appeared on the screen, her face excited despite signs of exhaustion. "Ambassador, we've made a breakthrough," she said. "We've been analyzing the communication patterns between Council members, focusing on the gaps in coded language. We now have proof that the Council has been deliberately preventing technological advancement in younger species." "How?" John asked. "The technologies they offer as gifts all contain hidden limitations. They're designed to guide development along paths the Council can control. More importantly, they monitor all research done using their technology and sabotage anything that might lead to true independence." John leaned forward. "Can you send the evidence?" "It's on its way through our secure channel. But there's more," Amanda continued. "We believe the Council's technological superiority is largely exaggerated. Based on energy readings from their ships and stations, they're only about 50 years ahead of us in most areas. In some fields, like artificial intelligence and quantum computing, we may actually be more advanced. That's why they're so eager to get us under control," Susan realized. "They see us as a potential threat." Back on Earth, military preparations continued quietly. General Patricia Wright walked through an underground facility in Nevada, where new defensive systems were being tested. "How soon can we deploy these to the colonies?" she asked the lead engineer. 2 weeks for the outer colonies, maybe 3. For the full network," he replied. "But are you sure this is necessary? The Council is supposed to be peaceful." Patricia's face hardened. "Intelligence suggests otherwise. We've intercepted communications about contingency options if Earth refuses to sign. We need to be ready." In another facility beneath MIT, William Carter met with a team of computer specialists. Large screens displayed complex code and system architectures. "Have you found a way in?" William asked. A young programmer nodded. "The Council's systems are advanced but surprisingly outdated in some ways. They haven't faced serious cyber challenges in centuries. We've mapped backdoor access to 60% of their communication network." "Good," William said. "Keep going, and make sure they don't detect you." He turned to another screen showing a galaxy map. Small dots represented data, storage centers throughout Council space. "These are our primary targets for information gathering. If our suspicions are correct, the history of how the Council treats new species is buried in these archives." 2 weeks later, John Phillips sat in another tense meeting on Concordia. This time, representatives from all 17 Council species were present. The chamber felt cold and hostile. "Earth has had ample time to review the integration treaty," Zixthul said. His voice had lost all warmth. "Your continued hesitation suggests defiance of Council authority." John kept his voice level. "We simply wish to ensure the treaty truly benefits both parties. Our latest analysis suggests certain terms may be challenging for Earth to meet." A ripple of murmurs passed through the alien representatives. The X-Ray representative clicked his mandibles loudly. "There is no negotiation," Krell declared. "The terms are standard for all species." "Perhaps we could discuss modifications," John suggested. "A more gradual resource-sharing plan, for instance." "Outrageous," shouted a reptilian delegate from the upper tier. Zixthul raised a hand for silence. "Ambassador Phillips, your species' attitude is becoming problematic. We have welcomed many new species into the galactic community. All have accepted our guidance." "And what happened to those who didn't?" John asked quietly. The chamber went silent. Zixthul's skin darkened slightly. "There have been rare cases of species who rejected Council oversight," he said carefully. "Most came to understand their mistake. Those who persisted found themselves isolated." John nodded slowly. "I see. And these isolated species, do they still exist?" More uncomfortable silence followed. "That will be all for today," Zixthul declared abruptly. "We expect Earth's final answer within 1 standard week." As John left the chamber, a small figure moved close beside him in the corridor. It was Mira, assistant to the Tellurian representative. The Tellurians were one of the newer Council species, Only accepted 300 years ago. Ambassador, she whispered, my people have suffered under council rule. The treaty they made us sign stripped our world of resources and independence. We are little more than servants now. She pressed a small data device into his hand. This contains historical records the council believes were destroyed. Information about other species who resisted. Please, use it wisely. Before John could respond, she hurried away. That night, John transmitted the device's contents to Earth through their secure channel. President Laura Bennett called an emergency session of the World Security Council. The evidence is clear, she told the assembled leaders. The Galactic Council is not a benevolent federation, but an empire that exploits new worlds and crushes resistance. William Carter presented the latest intelligence. Thanks to this new data and our own infiltration of their systems, we now have a complete picture. The Council has eliminated 12 species who refused to submit. They call it regulatory isolation, but it amounts to genocide. What are our options? Asked the European representative. General Wright stepped forward. Militarily, we're outmatched in conventional terms, but our analysis suggests their technological advantage is largely psychological. They haven't fought a real war in thousands of years. And we have Plan B, William said. Operation Deadlock. President Bennett looked around the room. The Council has given us 1 week to provide our final answer. I believe it's time to show them that humanity will not be the 13th species to disappear. The vote was unanimous. The grand chamber of the Concordia station hummed with tension. All 17 council representatives sat in their elevated positions, looking down at the human delegation. High Chancellor Zixthul stood at the center platform, his blue skin, almost dark purple with barely controlled emotion. The council's patience has ended, Zixthul announced, his voice echoing throughout the vast space. For 6 months, humans have delayed and questioned what all other species accept with gratitude. Today, Earth must provide its final answer. Ambassador John Phillips stood calmly before them. Behind him were Captain Susan Miller and 3 other human representatives. None of them showed any sign of fear. Earth has carefully considered the integration treaty, John said, his voice steady. We acknowledge the Council's long history and the structure it has created. However, we must respectfully decline the terms as presented. The chamber erupted in shouts and exclamations. The ex-dry representative Krell leaped to his feet, mandibles spread wide in a display of aggression. Several other species began talking, at once in their native languages, too upset to use the common tongue. Zixthul raised all 7 fingers on both hands, calling for silence. When the noise subsided, he fixed his swirling eyes on John. Perhaps I was unclear, Ambassador, he said, his voice dangerously soft. This is not a request. The treaty must be signed. The alternative is regulatory isolation. John nodded. We understand the implied threat, Chancellor. Earth has made its decision. Zixthul's skin rippled with dark colors. Then you leave us. No choice. The Council hereby declares Earth to be under regulatory isolation. No species may trade with humans. No technology will be shared. No protection will be offered. He leaned forward. You have 7 days to withdraw to your home system before Council enforcement begins. We understand, John said simply. He bowed, slightly, and turned to leave. Ambassador, called Zixthul, surprise evident in his voice. Do you not wish to reconsider? No species has survived regulatory isolation. John looked back. Humanity has faced extinction before, Chancellor. We're still here. As the human delegation left the chamber, whispers followed them. Many council representatives looked confused. Resistance was not the expected response to isolation. On their secure shuttle returning to the human embassy section of Concordia, Susan turned to John. That went exactly as expected. John nodded. They'll be watching us closely now, expecting panic or a last-minute change of heart. How long before they realize? Susan asked. Not long, John replied. Hours, maybe a day. Depends on how quickly they check their systems. Back on Earth, Director of Strategic Planning Howard Fletcher stood in the Global Command Center beneath Geneva. Around him, hundreds of specialists monitored communications, defense systems, and the status of Operation Deadlock. Status report, Howard called out. All Phase 1 infiltration complete, reported the Cyber Operations Chief. We have access to 97% of Council communication systems and 84% of their historical archives. Defense grid? Howard asked. Fully deployed around Earth and all colonies, replied the military liaison. Early warning system is active. The Council ships are maintaining their positions but have powered up weapons systems. Howard nodded. And the special package? A woman with short gray hair looked up from her station. Dr. Reyes reports the package is ready and distributed to all transmission points. We can activate at your command. Not yet, Howard said. We wait for the President's order. At that moment, in the Oval Office, President Laura Bennett met with the leaders of Earth's major powers. The mood was solemn but determined. The Council has declared regulatory isolation as expected, she informed them. Ambassador Phillips has delivered our refusal exactly as planned. And now we wait for their military response, said the Russian president. Laura shook her head. I don't believe they'll attack immediately. Their historical pattern is to isolate first, letting the fear build. When a species is desperate enough, they offer a special exception treaty with even worse terms. They've never faced humanity before, said the Chinese premier with a small smile. In orbit around Mars, the Earth Defense Fleet maintained battle readiness. Admiral Greg Foster paced the bridge of his flagship. 27 warships waited in formation, their crews tense but disciplined. Anything from the listening posts? He asked his second-in-command. Nothing yet, sir, she replied. Council ships are still in their previous positions. Greg nodded. They're waiting for us to blink first. 16 hours after the Council meeting, alarms sounded in the Concordia Station's Central Control Center. A Veldorian technician stared at his screen in disbelief. Chancellor, he called out. We have a problem. Zix Thule hurried over. Explain. Our primary communication network is experiencing irregularities, the technician said. Messages are being delayed or rerouted, and there's evidence of unauthorized access to the historical archives. Impossible, Zix Thule declared. No species has ever breached our security. The access points originate from multiple locations, the technician continued, his fingers moving rapidly over the controls. Many from human territory, but also from within Council systems? Zix Thule's skin paled. Check the suppression protocols. Now! The technician entered a series of commands. His eyes widened. Chancellor, the suppression protocols have been copied. The encryption has been broken. By the ancestors, Zix Thule whispered. Alert the Council immediately. Across Council space, similar discoveries were being made. Security systems showed evidence of infiltration. Historical records thought deleted centuries ago were being accessed and copied. Communication channels between Council worlds experienced strange delays and occasional failures. In the human embassy, on Concordia, John Phillips received a message from Earth. It was a single word. Proceed. John turned to his team. It's time. Send the invitation. Susan nodded and sent a pre-prepared message to all Council representatives. The human delegation requests an emergency session of the full Council in 3 hours to present important information. All species should attend. On Earth, Howard, Fletcher gave the order. Activate the package. Around the world and throughout human colonies, powerful transmission systems came online. The special package Dr. Reyes had prepared began broadcasting to every corner of the galaxy. In the Council's secure chamber, Zix Thule met with the representatives of the 5 founding species. The humans have done something unexpected, he admitted. They appear to have infiltrated our systems to a degree we thought impossible. How? Demanded the Xri representative. Their technology should be centuries behind ours. I don't know, Zix Thule said. But they've requested an emergency council session in 3 hours. To surrender? Asked the Marexi representative hopefully. I think not, Zixthul replied. They seem confident. What could they possibly have to say? The reptilian Drax representative hissed. They face isolation, extinction. Zixthul's skin darkened. I don't know, but I fear we may have miscalculated with this species. 3 hours later, the full council assembled. The chamber was tense, with representatives whispering nervously to each other. Many had received disturbing reports from their home worlds about communication disruptions and security breaches. The human delegation entered. Ambassador John Phillips walked to the center of the chamber alone this time. He carried no devices, no displays. Thank you for meeting on such short notice, John began. Humanity wished to address the full council one final time before relations between us change forever. Zixthul leaned forward. Have you reconsidered your position, Ambassador? John smiled. No, Chancellor. We've come to help you reconsider. Yours. He looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of each representative. For the past 6 months while we discussed your treaty, humanity has been learning about you, all of you, your histories, your secrets, your lies. The chamber erupted in angry shouts. John raised his voice slightly. And as of 1 hour ago, everything we've learned has been transmitted to every known intelligent species in the galaxy. Sudden silence fell over the chamber. What have you done? Zixthul whispered. The council chamber remained frozen in shock. High Chancellor Zixthul's skin had turned almost white, a sign of extreme distress among Veldorians. What exactly have you transmitted? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. John Phillips gestured, and a holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed a galaxy map with thousands of small dots of light, each representing a populated world. The truth, John said simply. Everything humanity has discovered about the Council's true history and operations. The complete unaltered records of how you've systematically suppressed and exploited younger species for 10,000 years. The display changed to show ancient records, documents the Council believed had been permanently destroyed centuries ago. We found the records of the 12 species who refused to submit, John continued, species whose names were erased from galactic history. Your regulatory isolation wasn't just economic pressure, it was genocide. Angry shouts erupted from some representatives, but many others sat in stunned silence. Lies, shouted Krell, the HFY representative. These are forgeries. No, John replied calmly. They're your own records, recovered from your secure archives. Archives you thought no one could access. He looked around the chamber. Did the founding species tell the rest of you the full history? Do you know what really happened to the Netherans? Who developed quantum technology beyond Council control? Or the Vex who refused resource quotas during their world's environmental crisis? Several of the newer Council species began whispering urgently to each other. But that's not all, John said. The display changed again, showing complex technical schematics. We also discovered the truth about your technology. Zixthul rose from his seat. This meeting is over. Guards, remove the humans. The guards are busy, John said without looking away from the display. They're trying to respond to security alerts across the station. Alerts that, I assure you, are quite real. The display zoomed in on specific technical details. The Council's technological development effectively stopped 3,000 years ago. You've been maintaining an illusion of superiority through information control and intimidation. The advanced technology you offer to new species contains hidden limitations and monitoring systems. John pointed to one section of the display. This is the Council's faster-than-light communication network, the backbone of your power. We found fundamental flaws in its design that you've never corrected because your society stopped innovating. He smiled slightly. Humanity's engineers not only understood these flaws, they've improved upon them. The transmission we sent today traveled across the galaxy instantly. Your messages take days to reach the same distances. The chamber had grown deathly quiet. Even Krell had stopped shouting. You're bluffing, Zixthul said, but doubt had crept into his voice. In response, John nodded to Susan Miller, who stood at the back of the chamber. She activated a small device in her hand. Screens around the chamber suddenly lit up, showing live feeds from dozens of worlds across council space. On each screen, crowds of various species could be seen watching public broadcasts of the information humanity had sent. Some were protesting in streets, others were gathered in great meeting halls, leaders arguing heatedly. "This is happening right now," John explained. "On every world in council space, people are learning the truth about how they've been manipulated, how technological progress has been deliberately stunted, how resources have been unfairly distributed to benefit the founding species." A new alert sounded on the main council control panel. A technician rushed over to Zixthul, speaking urgently in the Veldorian language. Zixthul's skin turned even paler. "The Tellurians they've formally withdrawn from all council agreements," he announced, disbelief in his voice. "And they won't be the last," John said. As if on cue, 3 more alerts sounded. The technician checked each one, growing more distressed with each message. "The Marexi, the Quan, and the Juvali have also withdrawn," the technician reported. The council chamber descended into chaos. Representatives were shouting, some demanding answers from the founding species, others calling for immediate military action against Earth. Zixthul raised his hands, calling for order. When the noise subsided slightly, he turned to John, his swirling eyes now dark with anger. "You have no idea what you've done, human. The Council maintains order in this galaxy. Without our control, there will be chaos, maybe even war between species. Perhaps," John acknowledged, "or perhaps a new order will emerge, one based on cooperation rather than control." "This changes nothing," Zixthul declared. "The Council still commands the largest military force in the galaxy. Your species remains isolated. We can still crush you." For the first time, John smiled broadly. "About that military force, have you checked your defense systems lately?" Zixthul stared at him, then quickly accessed the control panel himself. After a moment, his 7-fingered hands began to tremble. "Impossible," he whispered. "Not impossible," John corrected. "Just very, very difficult. While we've been talking, Earth's cyber specialists have completed the final phase of our operation. Every major defense system in Council space has been compromised." The display changed again, showing the status of weapons platforms, fleet command, centers, and orbital defense stations throughout Council territory. All showed the same status: monitored. "We haven't disabled your weapons," John explained. "We've simply placed them under observation. Any aggressive action toward Earth or our allies will be detected and neutralized." "How?" demanded one of the Drax representatives. "How could your primitive species accomplish this?" "We're not primitive," John replied. "We simply appear that way to a civilization that stopped advancing millennia ago. Humanity never stopped innovating, never stopped questioning, never stopped trying to improve." He looked directly at Zixthul. "While you were judging us by outdated standards, we were studying you, learning your weaknesses, finding ways past your defenses that you never imagined possible because you stopped imagining long ago." At that moment, another alert sounded. This one was different, a high-priority signal that made all representatives turn toward the main screen. The face that appeared belonged to a species many recognized, but few had seen in council chambers. The Eridani, one of the oldest and most reclusive species, who had withdrawn from active council participation centuries ago. "The Eridani Conclave has received the human transmission," the alien announced. "We have verified its contents against our own historical records. We find the evidence compelling and disturbing. The Conclave hereby withdraws all support from the current council structure and calls for an immediate gathering of all species to establish a new framework for galactic cooperation." The message ended, leaving the chamber in stunned silence. Zixthul slowly sank back into his chair. "What do you want?" he asked John, his voice hollow. "A new beginning," John replied. "Earth has no desire to replace one form of control with another. We're prepared to help establish a truly equal alliance of all willing species." He looked around the chamber at the many representatives who were now watching him with a mixture of fear, hope, and uncertainty. "The choice is yours," John said. "Continue to cling to a corrupt system built on lies, or help us build something better." One by one, representatives began to indicate their support for a new discussion. Even some of the founding species representatives nodded reluctantly. Only Zixthul remained unmoved, staring at John with hatred in his swirling eyes. "This isn't over, human," he said quietly. "No," John agreed. "It's just beginning." 3 weeks had passed since the emergency council session. The Concordia station, once the proud center of galactic governance, now served a different purpose. The great chamber had been reconfigured, with the elevated platforms for council, representatives replaced by a circular arrangement where all species sat at the same level. Captain Susan Miller stood by the large viewport, watching ships arrive from across the galaxy. Each vessel represented a different species coming to participate in what many were calling the New Concord talks. "Quite a change from 6 months ago," said John Phillips, joining her at the window. Susan nodded. "I never imagined we'd get this far this quickly." "Neither did they," John replied, glancing toward a group of Veldorians huddled in discussion across the room. Zixthul was notably absent. After the revelation of the Council's true nature, he had retreated to the Veldorian homeworld, refusing further contact. The transition had not been entirely peaceful. On several worlds, supporters of the old Council had attempted to seize control of communication systems to prevent the spread of information. On others, centuries of resentment had boiled over into protests and occasional violence. But overall, the galaxy was adjusting to a new reality with surprising speed. "Ambassador Phillips," called a voice behind them. They turned to see Mira, the Tellurian who had secretly provided them with historical records months ago. Her status had risen dramatically since then, and she now led her species delegation. "The session is about to begin," she said. "As the ones who initiated this change, humans should speak first." John nodded and followed her to the chamber. Representatives from over 40 species had gathered, more than twice the number that had comprised the original council. Some were species that had previously been under council rule. Others were independent civilizations from beyond council space who had received humanity's transmission and chosen to participate. As John took his place at the circular table, Dr. Amanda Reyes entered the chamber with Howard Fletcher. They had arrived from Earth the previous day, bringing with them something the gathered representatives were eager to see. John stood and addressed the assembly. "Thank you all for coming. When humanity first encountered the Galactic Council 6 ice months ago, we could not have predicted we would be standing here today in these circumstances." He paused, looking around the room. The old council ruled through fear, secrecy, and control. They suppressed technology, manipulated economies, and eliminated those who resisted. We humans revealed this truth not to destroy, but to rebuild. Today we take the first step toward something better. John gestured to Amanda. "Dr. Reyes has brought something we wish to share with all species as a sign of good faith, not as a gift from a superior race, but as an offering among equals." Amanda stepped forward, activating a holographic display that showed detailed technical schematics. "These are the improved faster-than-light communication designs that humanity developed by studying and enhancing council technology. We offer them freely to all species, with no restrictions or monitoring systems." Murmurs of surprise spread through the chamber. Under the old council, such technology would have been tightly controlled, offered only to compliant species, and even then, with severe limitations. "Additionally," Amanda continued, "we propose a collaborative research initiative where scientists from all species can work together on technologies that benefit everyone. No more suppression of innovation, no more artificial limitations." Thor, HFY representative, not Krell but a younger member of the species, spoke up. "Why would humans share such valuable technology? What do you want in return?" "A fair question," John acknowledged. "Humanity wants what most species want: security, prosperity, and the freedom to develop at our own pace. We believe these goals are best achieved through cooperation, not domination. The Eridani representative, a tall, graceful being with silver skin, rose to speak. The Eridani withdrew from active council participation centuries ago because we saw the corruption at its core. We chose isolation rather than continue to participate in a system we could not change. The Eridani looked directly at John. We were wrong. Change was possible, but it required a species with both the insight to see the truth and the courage to act upon it. Humanity has demonstrated both qualities. Over the next several hours, representatives shared their visions for a new galactic alliance. There were disagreements, sometimes heated, about how power should be distributed, how resources should be shared, and how conflicts should be resolved. But the fundamental principle, that all species deserved an equal voice, remained unchallenged. The formal session concluded, Susan found herself speaking with a group of representatives from younger species. One of them, a Murexi with flowering appendages that changed color as it spoke, asked the question many had been wondering. How did humans really do it? How did you manage to infiltrate systems the Council had protected for millennia? Susan smiled. Human history is filled with underdogs overcoming powerful adversaries. We're endlessly creative when facing challenges, especially when our survival is at stake. But the technical details, pressed the Murexi. Surely your species couldn't have advanced so quickly on your own. William Carter, who had just arrived from Earth for the second day of talks, overheard the question. The Council's greatest weakness was their belief in their own superiority, he explained. They stopped looking for new threats or new methods centuries ago. Their security systems were designed to prevent attacks they could imagine, not those they couldn't. Also, Susan added, they failed to understand an essential human trait, cooperation. The Council ruled by keeping species isolated and competing with each other. Humanity united our entire planet to face this challenge. Later, that evening in a private meeting room, Earth's representatives gathered to discuss the day's events. President Laura Bennett joined via secure communication from Geneva. Progress looks promising, she said after hearing their reports. Any significant resistance? Some of the founding species are reluctant, John replied. The Veldorians in particular feel they have the most to lose. But even they recognize that the old system cannot be restored. And our special failsafe? Laura asked. Howard nodded. Still in place. All major defense systems remain under monitoring. If anyone attempts to use military force to restore the old order, we'll know immediately. Laura's expression was serious. Let's hope it won't be necessary. Our goal was never to replace one form of control with another. Speaking of control, Amanda said, the Collaborative Research Initiative has received enthusiastic support. 23 species have already committed scientists and resources. Laura smiled. That's what I hope to hear. Real progress comes not from holding others back, but from moving forward together. The next morning, as representatives gathered for the second day of talks, a small fleet of Veldorian ships arrived at Concordia. Tension spread through the station until a message was received. Zixthul had been removed from power by his own people. The new Veldorian leadership wished to participate in the new Concord as equals. As Susan watched the Veldorian representatives enter the chamber, no longer wearing the ornate robes that had signified their council status, she felt a sense of hope. The galaxy was entering a new era, one that humanity had helped create not through dominance but through a simple, powerful idea, that freedom and cooperation could overcome even the most entrenched system of control. Ready for day 2? John asked, joining her. Susan nodded. Humanity's first steps into a larger universe. Not just steps, John replied with a smile. A whole new path.